I'm interested in this camp because we get to go see marine stuff, and I get half a credit for high school.
Over the 2-week period, students studied 9 major components of the camp. It ranged from hands-on experience with bivalves, seaweeds, eelgrasses, to using technology equipment such as GPS units and measuring transects. They also used equipment for underwater testing.
It took a couple years for my uncles to make me understand that they know 10 times the amount that I will ever know, because they spend every day on the water. So I'm going to tell you a combination of 2 things today, and in there are embedded at least 3 conservation ethics. And as I tell the story, I want you to think about it, because I am going to ask you in the end if you can figure out what they are.
I've learned that there is many edible plants in the ocean that you can eat and live off of.
So this is an old story, and you can hear it in Tlingit. It's a Kiksadi story. In Haida, it's from the Kaigani area, which is the Alaska area. And I have also read it in Tsimshian text. The local name for it is called moldy salmon. So it's about a young boy who's at fish camp, and in southeast Alaska, the many tribes had winter camps where they had the beautiful longhouses where they spent the winter. But in the summer, they would travel to places something like this, where there's a nice stream where the salmon would come up, and they would spend the summer getting salmon, because salmon is the mainstay for food in southeast Alaska.
I learned that there are different species of seaweed. Even though they all look alike, they're totally different.
And you can tell it's a very important family because this family has copper. Copper was not common. You had to go inland to get copper and you had to trade for it, and the trade could be very expensive in terms of what you could trade back then. But the family was an important family, and so their only son had a beautiful copper rope around his neck, like a choker, and that identified him as a very important person. And he knew that, this little boy knew that he was pretty important, you know, and he thought he was kind of hot stuff for a kid, and usually uncles teach you you're not very hot, but he wasn't old enough for that lesson yet. So while the family was putting up salmon for the next winter, he was down at the beach playing on a nice low tide, and he was setting snares to get seagulls. And he was so busy doing this, he got kind of hungry, so he ran up to camp and he asked his mother for a piece of fish. So she dug out of her stores from last year and gave him a piece of fish, and it had mold on it. And he said, "Why are you giving me this moldy salmon? I shouldn't be getting moldy salmon. I'm not that kind of person." And he threw it down because he was an important boy, so he shouldn't get moldy salmon. So then he heard this voice that said, "Hey, there's a seagull in your snare." And so he goes racing off and he runs down to the beach to check for a seagull. Nobody sees him for a bit. The tide comes up. They cannot find their only son. They look and look for days. And in the end, they have to leave camp without their son. The salmon people had come and got him and taken him to the salmon world. To him, it looked like he went in a canoe, but he actually went under the ocean. There he was taken in actually by the chief. Even though he showed respect towards salmon, he was taken in by the chief and he was treated very well. He became like a son to that chief. And he spent 2 years there. So meanwhile, the family had left. They went back to their winter cabin. They came back the next summer. They went putting up fish, and they're thinking of the son that they lost, and they look for him again, and they don't find anything. And they don't want to mourn his loss yet because they just don't want to give up hope. And so in the second summer, as salmon season approaches, they're out there getting ready, and the salmon people are coming back. And this is the one that the young boy now belongs to, this salmon people group. They're coming back. Well, salmon have their own way of dealing with people. They know that people are kind of up and down and wishy-washy, and sometimes they're good and sometimes they're not good.
Crabs and shrimp and crustaceans cannot enlarge their shell as they grow. What they do is they grow this shell, and when they exceed the size of the shell, they form another shell underneath the shell, and then they open up the hatch and crawl out, okay, leaving everything else behind.
Plankton and how they produce most of the oxygen that we need. And then they talked about the other things that kind of affect the plankton as well. Not only the pollution and stuff like that, but the other animals that need the plankton.
Salmon know that they're giving themselves to us, but they want to make sure they're giving it to the right people. And so when they come into their home, they have their winter home in the ocean, but they also have their home in the river. And we know that salmon always come back to the same river. That's their home. So they send a scout up, and the scout comes up and he jumps, and the people see him. Everything stops when the salmon first jumps and says, "I'm here." You can't use the river anymore. You can't use that stream anymore. You can't go in it to take your daily bath. You can't dump any refuge in it. You can't even walk across it. You can't go near it. That river becomes taboo. All the people have to come into fish camp. They have to pull out their regalia. They have to get eagle down. They get cedar boughs and they break them down because they want to make a beautiful, beautiful welcoming to salmon. So days have gone by. They're finally ready. So they have the first salmon ceremony. one of the young, strong men goes down and he harvests that first salmon. They bring it in and they cook it. They sing to the salmon, they hold it up, they share it ceremoniously. They just treat it with greatest respect. And when they're finished, they take the bones and they take it down to the river and give it back. Because salmon, like us, have two parts of us. We have our physical part, but we also have our spirit part. So when they put the bones back in the river, then salmon goes down and he tells the rest of his people, oh, they treated me very well. This is a good place to come back to. We'll go home again.
I grew up in a traditional family. I grew up eating traditional food, fish, clams, seaweeds, venison, seal, all kinds of food. Every day we'd eat food from the land and the ocean.
So after that ceremony is conducted and the salmon come in full force, then they start harvesting. So this is how it was in that second summer, as it always is. But as they started coming in, the salmon chief saw the father of the lost boy. He saw him up there and he saw the mother, and he told the boy, stand up. And so how does the salmon stand up? Jump. Ayo, that's what we say in Tlingit and Haida. Ayo, so the salmon jumps up and the mother looks and she sees that one salmon and she goes, oh, that's a beautiful salmon. She tells her husband, go get that one, I want that one. So he goes out and he's able to scoop it up and he brings it back. And it's so beautiful. He says, we'll eat this one fresh, cut it up now. And so he throws it down on her mat. And she gets her knife, maybe her ulu, if it was long ago, it was probably made out of blue mussel. And she gets ready to cut into it, and she cuts into the gill. And if you've gone fishing, if you gill it right here, then it bleeds, and you've got the best salmon you can. She cuts into there, and what does she hit? Yes, she clinks, something clinks, and so she looks, and there is that piece of copper around his gills, around his neck. And she's so surprised, and she knows that. She knows that piece of copper, so she calls her husband over and says, look at this. And he looks and he knows something's going on. So he calls all the women in, all the elder women, the clan mothers, and they take the salmon and they sing to this salmon special songs. They cover this salmon with down. They cover it with a very beautiful blanket, part of their atu, and then they put it in this beautiful basket and they lay it up on a platform by the smokehouse.
Okay, so it's kind of like a green transparent, and the holdfast and stipe aren't there, so I think I might have ripped them off when I picked it. So and it's got like holes, so I don't know if it was wrecked or if it's just naturally holy.
Okay, and irregularly shaped.
Yeah, irregularly shaped.
Okay. So after a day, if you've got a fresh salmon laying out, what happens? Dries. Before that. That's right. So the flies came, they could hear the flies come zzz, zzz. They hear that over the first night, and then the next day they hear zzz, zzz. And then the next night, that zzz turns into a song. Someone in that basket is singing a song. And so the father climbs up on a ladder and he looks in the basket and he pulls back that blanket, and it's his son. His son has come back to him because they did what was right. They treated the salmon with respect. And they treated that one salmon the right way. So they bring their son down, and of course they have to treat him. He's been gone for several years, so they treat him well. And then he talks to the village people after, and he says everything he's learned and where he went, and that we have to show respect for salmon. That we can't have moldy ends anymore. We have to eat the salmon that we've harvested, otherwise we show disrespect, like we don't really need the salmon. And we have to always put those bones and any of the uneaten meat or heads or tails back in the river to show respect, and so that the spirit of the salmon can go back. So that's the story of moldy salmon.
I learned that popweed has reproductive juices in it.
So if you look at Corps of Engineers, if you look at Department of Natural Resources, if you look at Alaska Department of Fish and Game, all of them have a multitude of regulations to protect salmon streams. And that's exactly what the Tlingit did. As soon as that first salmon showed up, nothing could be done. That was a buffer zone. That was a regulation. So they went to get people. They got regalia. They collected down. How long did that take? A few days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. And what do you think happened during those 3 or 4 days? So ADF&G manages salmon in many different ways, but one of their most important salmon regulations involves escapement. So if a river like Taku River can handle 10,000 sockeye, then they will make sure something like 1,000 go up before you can have any commercial harvest, before you can have any kind of subsistence harvest or sports harvest. They want to make sure that the minimum number of salmon needed to keep that population going gets upriver before humans can start taking it. Well, the Tlingit in this story had that exact same regulation. That second time period when they were getting ready. It took days to bring everybody in. It took days to get all of that important regalia together to go and collect eagle down and get the cedar boughs ready to receive that salmon. And during all of those days, salmon are going upriver. So by the time they're done they're done doing the first salmon ceremony, they have the equivalent of escapement already up the river. So when they commence harvesting for their winter take, they've already ensured that the salmon are up the river and enough are ready to spawn so that the resource continues forever.
Most of it isn't wasted. They take the whiskers, the hide, they even eat the flippers, everything. Use the skin, utilize skin for other boots, jewelry, vests, you name it. They even use the teeth and the claws for ceremonial purposes. But they eat everything. They eat everything from the stomach and the intestines, what have you. Well, we're showing you guys how to do it. You don't want to get this on your clothes because if you do, you might as well throw it away.
We have ponchos if anybody wants a poncho.
Like I said, a lot of old elder people eat the flippers off of these. I've never tried it myself, but
you're missing out.
Yeah. Have you tried it? Oh, Mr. Strong.
I'm glad you're doing it.
So, how do you cook the flippers, Anthony?
Put them in water for a while.
Just boil them for an hour or so? I have my 9-year-old do this too. Start them early, yeah. Okay, on this part?
Oh, yeah.
You should all take a look at what the insides of the seal look like. This is pretty darn close to what people look like on the inside too.
Oh, that's lovely. It's lovely.
But you'll find those kinds of conservation ethics in many of the stories if you start looking at them, if you start listening to them, and like David said, more than just hearing it, but listening to it and thinking about it.
When you research the small organisms in the marine ecosystem, you can really see how it affects all of the larger organisms and eventually us.
and I couldn't have long hair. So what did I do? I grew out my hair, I used blue jeans, and I took my shirt tails out. And they kicked me out of school for 3 days. And when I got out of school, the worst thing happened to me. The worst. My best buddy, my very best friend, pulled out something, and I was into mischief for a good 15 years after that. The sun really gives it that extra crispiness and flavor. So I really enjoy seaweed a lot.
It's not alive.
Oh, it's dead?
It is dead. Okay, but you got yourself him. Boy, when you find a lot of these, oh my gosh, they're really spooky. You know, you pick up a net and these things.
To do that, I lived my whole life with elderly people. And it took me a long time to become this person that I am today. I'm the spokesperson for my clan. I am allowed to speak on behalf of my family, my clan, for the people of Juneau. This week I'm here for celebration. I'm a host. I welcome people to this community. I welcome people when they come in by canoe, off the ferry. I'm out there welcoming them into my homeland. Juneau is my home. Juneau is mine. And I'm very proud of that. My family comes from Auk Bay. I'm very proud of that. And I want all of you to know, to be proud of Juneau. There's no place like this place.
Down there. The other thing you keep an eye out for on the umbilical is no kinks. Got to keep the cord from kinking.
How heavy is that thing?
What's it? The ROV is about 120 pounds. A lot of jellyfish.
How deep is that?
We're at 42 feet right now.
You can tell right here.
Yep, bottom corner.
Whoa. You can see the lasers.
Yeah.
Are they coming?
I saw a bull cow.
Might be a halfway decent place for a little plankton tow. See what all that little guys are.
I remember jellyfish came up to the surface and I put them in a water bottle and we saw them. They were like that big. It was fun.
These guys are a little bit bigger than that, but yeah, they're small. Not too fast. This thing, the top speed for this with 2 thrusters in the rear is about 3.5 knots. See, there we're at bottom. Now what's our bearing to the shore?
Well, there's not much on the bottom.
Yeah, well that's kind of typical around here.
Would that just run off battery though? Is that right?
Oh, so we're gonna hear
The
them.
110 pulls
Yeah.
it off the bat
Yeah.
and converts it.
Yeah. But this is fine. I mean, for 4 hours, I'm good to go.
What kind of noise does it make? Like,
Well, this is strictly just looking at what's out in the water right now.
Oh.
So we're not actively putting anything in the water. One of the ideas that we had, I don't know if we're going to do it on this trip or not, but if we had the other boat clang like a couple of pieces of metal together, and we knew when they did it, then we could look for when we would hear that over here.
We could do that.
Yeah, stop spraying juice. I'm trying to set that out.
looks like it's got legs and stuff.
Red. It's very multi-branched.
Yeah.
The
Stipe.
the stide is very short.
Stipe.
Stipe is very short. It got like ripped off.
Okay. Okay, so you don't see the holdfast, or? Okay. Okay, so we do not have a holdfast here, so we can't speak to that.
It's kind of hair-like,
Yeah.
in a way.
Uh-huh. And does it feel slimy or not?
It's not slimy.
Okay.
Just got,
Kind of coarse.
yeah.
Okay, good. Good job. Say that.
But there's no stipe, there's no holdfast. This is like brownish greenish. It's like roughly, and it's kind of thin, and it has one rib.
Running down the whole length.
Yeah.
Okay.
Down.
Red algae, and it doesn't really have a stipe, and I think it has a discoidal holdfast. It's really hard to see because it's so small, and it's very feathered, and it also has, I think it's a different green algae growing off of it, and it's not slimy. It's just not slimy.
And it's also small.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so hold it up since that's one of the first we've seen. And other people did see this one. Nice collection. Okay, is that it for that group?
Very, very small, very minute, hold fast. I don't even know where it is on there. So I don't know what type that is. And no, really not much of a Skype at all.
So it immediately branches out to all
Yeah.
of these
Bulb.
sacs.
Sac things, yeah.
Okay. So squish a sac.
Should I squish it?
Yeah, squish one. Okay. Usually if it's full, it'll like squirt her. Okay. Different. Next.
This is a
Hold it up
reddish
so people can see.
brown specimen. I think we tore the holdfast off, but the stipe is flat and very short.
Okay. Good.
And it is slimy.
Okay. And then it.
This suet is green and slimy in irregular shape. I can't see the stipe or the holdfast.
Okay. How is it? How thick is it?
Transparent.
Okay. And it is also fragile.
Very fragile.
Very fragile. Okay. Good job.
This is a brown, like,
excellent specimen.
Brown chard, like
So hold it up
transparent leaf. It's got a round, long stipe.
Kind
It's
of
got
flat.
a root-like holdfast.
Yeah.
And it's got one rib going through its whole length of its body.
Great.
And it's got like ruffled leaves.
Edges.
Edges.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Go ahead.
This has no steadfast. The stipe is very, very short.
No, hold fast.
Hold fast.
Okay.
And then the steep is very short.
Stipe.
Stipe.
Have to have you guys spell stipe.
After it leaves the stipe, it kind of branches off, and the leaves are like kind of like glossy and smooth, but not slimy. And then it's kind of like an olive green color, and
Okay,
it's
and
kind of ruffled with ribs.
Each frond has what going down the center?
A rib.
A rib. Good. Great. Good job. Okay. Yep. Yep. Okay.
Okay, so this seaweed has a long circular stipe.
Stipe, that's correct.
And a discoidal
Holdfast.
holdfast, and it branches out a lot.
Okay, and the color?
It's looks like it's usually brown.
Good. That's a good way to say it. But it has started turning.
Yeah, it's greenish.
Roll tape number 4, day 4, 6608. 5:30. Action.
It helps us learn about how connected we are with our ecosystem and how how it affects how we live. Like if we didn't have.
I think it makes me want to recycle more, or in a better way.
Why were you interested in this camp?
Well, because I haven't gone camping in a while, and I heard it went camping. Haven't gone camping since I was like 10 or 11.
Okay.
What's your name?
Oh, am I supposed to look at you or the camera?
The camera.
We'll ask the questions, it makes more sense.
That seaweed can be used more than just eating it.
What's one thing you expected at this camp?
Expected to learn about marine biology.
When I came to camp, I just kind of expected to see marine stuff.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
92% of the students said they learned a lot. 65% of the students felt that they wanted to get in careers in science and marine science. And 70% said that they improved their attitude towards science.
Our research of the ecosystem provides us with information to determine what is safe to do and what is not with our influences on the ecosystem.
Okay, that's great. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Hi, Mom.
All right.
If I had a superpower, I would look into the future.
The amazing thing is students have been talking to their parents about scientific knowledge that they've gained during camp.
Because it sounded like a lot of fun, and learning science, I was trying to improve my science part of me because I was never really good at that.
What is your name?
Sorsha.
Oh, yeah. There are a lot of cool people at this camp. A lot of cool people. Yeah.
Okay. Well, when they said camping, I thought they meant like out in tents, not in a super awesome, really nice lodge. But I'm happy about that anyways, so it's all good.
When you gain more understanding, you begin to respect the environment more, and you can gain that understanding through research.
I never really had an interest in this particular subject beforehand, but you know, it's been kind of itching in the back of my head, just like, you know, just go here and try it out, and so I did. What's one thing that you've learned? Clams are important. Why? Because they help filter the water. Why is that important? So that there's more oxygen for anything else that needs it.
Okay. I was interested into this camp thing so I can earn half a credit.
So Dolly Garza was so amazing in that she could take these native stories and merge them with Western science and present them in a way that these high schoolers could understand. And looking at the evaluations at the end of the camp, I know that it led to a better, deeper appreciation for Native culture. It was pretty cool.
How does the research reflector?
Are we distracted? It would help us understand how the Earth was created. Wait, that was so random.
And cut. The planet.
It really broadens your view, and you can see how everything is connected when you get down to the very small organisms, and how those also affect the larger organisms.
Can you repeat that?
Like the little tiny things that are affected by the simple things we do, like use cars, and how it affects life in the ocean. And so it just tells us to be careful of what we do.
Students were very engaged with the scientists and enjoyed learning about different possibilities that they could do with future careers in science.
because I thought we'd be doing a lot of outdoor research and getting into things that I didn't know before.
One thing you have learned at this camp.
That bivalves float around in larval stage for 30 days.
It teaches us how to like treat the ecosystem and how to live with it without like destroying it.
Like seaweed, there's lots of food, clams, other sea animals.
Whitney, Wendy, Walter, Brittany.
It affects it because we learn how to take care of it better, so we don't like go around leaving our trash around or spill oil all over the place.
I don't know.
Good honest answer. Is there anything else?
Very excited to know that we were going to do dissecting until I saw how gooey and stuff it was. I'm so used to formaldehyde and stuff, so it was kind of gross.
Something I expected, that there's gonna be people here? I don't know.
That there's like a lot of clams and butter clam. I didn't know that that thing was poisonous.
149. Action.
How to make a dichotomous key.
What's a dichotomous key?
It separates shellfish and helps them get them into the genus and species.
I liked just being able to hang out with a bunch of new people and hanging out with like Sorsha and Nicole and hanging out with cool people.
Like today we did the seal dissection and that was really cool.
It's half a credit, it's free, and I want to learn more about the marine ecosystem.
What's one thing that you've learned?
I learned how to harvest and dry seaweed.
Well, because I love biology, I happen to be very close to biology. Me and biology are like this. So I just want to learn more about it and our environment.
I learned a lot about seaweed and like how they grew and how like which ones were edible and stuff.
I was looking forward to driving the ROV because that sounded pretty cool.
And many students have expressed an interest in going into science-related careers now.
I learned how to identify different bivalves by their characteristics.
Wait, what was that question?
I learned that PSP is like really deadly.
I don't want to stop on fecal something. Fucus. I don't want to stop on fucus seaweed on the beaches anymore.
Okay, cut.
Cut.
So I am Dr. Ray Troll, and I'm a doctor of fine arts. That's what I am. So I'm an artist. I am a fine artist, a fin artist, if you will. What I do primarily is art that's based on the marine world, and then I throw in a lot of the science. The science increasingly over the years has driven the inspiration for me. Science can be fun, and making science fun is what I've been all about. Got a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1977, and that was in fine arts, and in 1981 I got a master's degree from Washington State University. I didn't really get intrigued with oceanic creatures until I came and lived in Alaska, and that was in 1983, so 25 years ago. So I was a fish seller. I sold fish to the locals, and as I found out more about the animals, I wanted to know more and more about the animals, and increasingly started hanging around with scientists. You know, for instance, the ratfish. I caught a ratfish. I was like, what is this animal? This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen in the world. And there's got to be somebody in the world that can tell me more about this. And sure enough, there is that person. You can find that person, befriend that person, and they will tell you about that animal. It's really incredible, the variations within the fish world alone. There's like 25,000 species of fish alive on the planet today. Well, I think there's a lot out there in the ocean world that we still don't know, you know, and that's the excitement of discovery. And actually, you know, the deeper we go in the ocean, you know, there's very little of the deep ocean that's been explored, and a lot of weird stuff down there too, a lot of weird stuff. But like I said, we are of that vertebrate tribe. We are the animals with the backbones, and if you trace the animals with the backbones back, and actually if you trace all of life back, everything alive today, all goes back to one point down in the ocean. We all came from the ocean, Mother Ocean. I'm really inspired by Alaskan fishermen and women. I also have a whole lot of respect for the people that are doing the research. It's such a huge puzzle to know how many fish there are out there in the world, and if we take in too many, and many people in the world that depend upon the health of the ocean. So, you know, it's a huge job. Artists that would inspire me, there's been all kinds of artists. Well, you know, Van Gogh comes to mind, but there was a German artist in the 1600s by the name of Albrecht Dürer, and he was a bit of he did big paintings, but he also did a lot of, did these really beautifully detailed paintings of animals and crabs and stuff like rabbits and things. Hieronymus Bosch, Peter Bruegel. Native Alaskan art too, I think, is really powerful, evocative work. So these gigantic sculptures, huge totem poles of powerful animals. I mean, it's a real privilege to be around that kind of thing. Of my own work, I usually tend to like the last piece I've done. But there's, you know, bigger pieces that might take me a year to do, you know, and there's a whole lot of effort and work that goes into it. Spawn Till You Die is probably the one that most people know, and I've always liked that piece. It'll probably be carved on my tombstone. You know, Ray Troll, the Spawn Till You Die guy. You know, that's inspired by looking at the salmon. And, you know, we like to think that we are so different than the fish. And look at them, and it's a kind of a joke to think that, you know, humans spawn and die, but, you know, guess what? We do spawn and then we do die. Basically, it's sort of an accelerated version of our life, and they do it on a quicker basis. And that's the one thing, you know, I did that, I peaked early, did that in 1987, I should have quit, but no, I keep going. But other times, I will intentionally start on the corner of a canvas not knowing where I'm going to go next, and then kind of let things begin to kind of find their way into a big, complex thing. And actually sometimes it's really tough to just clear the decks enough to where you just get to go to the studio and do whatever. And had the big blank canvas and no pressures to do anything, I'd probably end up painting fish. Simple as that, you know. It's kind of so ingrained in me now, you know. They're in my dreams. I live them and breathe them, and I am them. Be true to yourself. To thine own self be true. Beware of jobs that require new clothes. You know, learn from your mistakes. Learn from others' mistakes. But eventually, everything you do will come back to you, and I think that's totally true. You know, I think there's two things in life that everybody needs to strive for. Do a job that you love, and don't hate your job, you know, and live with someone that you love. So find those two things, and if you find those two things, it's actually not as easy as it might sound, but if you get there, don't leave there. I really do think that if you do what you love, money will follow. And look, for me, it was like I looked at this fish, and I began to love the fish. got a few more big paintings left of me. I want to do some more big paintings. I might want to do a few more music CDs. Those are fun to do. So, you know, I've accomplished a lot. So I've already lived a pretty full life, but I wanted to keep on doing what I'm doing. More art till I die, till they take the brush out of my hand, till my cold hands.
Let me tell you a little story about a fisher friend of mine, dating back 300 million years of time. Goldfish, spoonfish, married at two, strictly my opinion, but the ratfish rule. Tell you a little story about a fisher friend of mine, dating back 300 million years of time. Goldfish, spoonfish, married at two, strictly my opinion, but the ratfish rule. Hydra like a totally underwater rapper king, coming from the body with his eyes blue green, shining like a Navajo, making like a hidey hole, wicked little practice with a voice and let it go.
I'm interested in this camp because we get to go see marine stuff, and I get half a credit for high school.
Plankton, and how they produce most of the oxygen that we need. And then they talked about the other things that kind of affect the plankton as well. Not only the pollution and stuff like that, but the other animals that need the plankton.
I've learned about all the properties of water. Mr. Smith's lecture was really informative.
Okay, so now this one's multi-direction. Yeah. Okay. What are you doing? Kristen's writing.
I know I'm not writing. I'm making an arrow. Okay, guys. Okay, how to spell that?
I get it. Sorry.
L-T. Yeah.
I.
So we're not using the marker.
I learned that there are different species of seaweed, even though they all look alike. They're totally different.
I grew up in a traditional family. I grew up eating traditional food, fish, clams, seaweeds, venison, seal, all kinds of food. Every day we'd eat food from the land and the ocean.
Crabs and shrimp and crustaceans cannot enlarge their shell as they grow. What they do is they grow this shell, and when they exceed the size of the shell, they form another shell underneath the shell, and then they open up the hatch and crawl out, okay? Leaving everything else behind.
I learned how to dissect a clam.
Okay, so it's kind of like a green transparent, and the holdfast and stipe like aren't there, so I think I might have ripped them off when I picked it. So, and it's got like holes, so I don't know if it was wrecked or if it's just naturally holy.
And irregularly shaped.
Yeah,
Okay.
irregularly shaped.
Okay. The holes in there are usually from small snails that come along and eat it. So when it's fresh and new, you don't see holes, and then after the snail moves in, you do. Next, please.
It's like 2 seconds, like behind.
Speed of sound in water is a lot faster than air, and that's what I wanted to talk about this afternoon.
I've learned that there is many edible plants in the ocean that you can eat and live off of. I learned that popweed has reproductive juices in it. When you research the small organisms in the marine ecosystem, you can really see how it affects all of the larger organisms and eventually us.
Because I thought it would be fun to learn about the marine biology.
ways to get the whiskers, the hide. They even eat the flippers, everything. Use the skin, utilize the skin for other boots, jewelry, vests, you name it. They even use the teeth and the claws for ceremonial purposes. But they eat everything. They eat everything from the stomach and the intestines, what have you. Well, we're showing you guys how to do it. You don't want to get this on your clothes because if you do, you might as well throw it away.
We have ponchos if anybody wants a poncho.
Like I said, a lot of old elder people eat the flippers off of these. I've never tried it myself, but
you're missing out.
Yeah, have you tried it? Oh, Mr. Strong.
I'm glad you're doing it.
So, how do you cook the flippers, Anthony?
Put them in water for a while.
Just boil them for an hour or so?
Try not to.
I have my 9-year-old do this too. Start them early, yeah. Okay, on this part?
Oh, yeah.
You should all take a look at what the insides of the seal look like. This is pretty darn close to what people look like on the inside too.
Oh, that's it's lovely.